This story was sent to me by a follower that we're going to call Emily, and to this day, she doesn't know what was in her room with her that night. Now, according to Emily, this happened a few years ago when she was sharing a bedroom with her younger sister. And on this one particular night, sometime after midnight, she woke up unexpectedly. And at first, she wasn't really sure why, but then she saw the glow of her phone light up her room, and it was a notification that had appeared on the screen. Now, most people probably would have went back to bed and ignored it, no problem, but what made her sit straight up in her bed was what the notification said. And it wasn't a text message, it wasn't an email, it was from her calendar app, and the event was labeled as One Man Hide and Seek. The problem was, she never created any event like that. And Emily says that she, stared at the screen for a little bit, kind of like trying to figure out what she was looking at, right? Trying to think back through her day. Maybe she did it by accident, but there was nothing. She knew she hadn't added anything like that to her calendar. And nobody else had the password or any access to her phone, so it couldn't have been anyone else. And at first she thought maybe it was a glitch, but the phrase really bothered her, a one-man hide-and-seek game. And it sounded less like a calendar reminder and more like a set of instructions. And that's when she started to get this really uneasy feeling, and the room suddenly felt very different and very heavy. And, the kind of feeling where your stomach drops and every instinct inside tells you that something isn't right, like that roller coaster drop feeling. And her sister was still asleep in the lower part of the bed, but the sister was breathing very heavy. And Emily climbed down to, from her upper part of the bed and quietly crawled into her sister's bed to sleep beside her. And she pulled the blanket over the both of them, and they just sat there and waited. And a few moments went by. They heard footsteps, and they weren't inside the room, but they were out in the hallway and in between their room and their parents' room. And they were very slow and very deliberate, and they were coming closer to their bedroom door. Then the hallway light clicked on, and it was one of those sensor lights, and Emily froze. And at first she assumed it was maybe their mom or their stepdad checking in on them, but something about the footsteps felt very wrong, right? She couldn't explain why, other than that they didn't sound familiar, right? They weren't the normal pace of her family. And then came the sound that made her heart stop, and it was her bedroom door that was slowly creeping open. And the footsteps had entered the room, and Emily pulled the blanket tighter around her face, and she kind of held her breath as she was listening. And one step came closer, and then another, and they were moving deeper into the room, closer towards her. And they were moving now toward the closet. And then she heard the closet door open, and a second later, the closet light had clicked on. And there was silence for several long seconds. And remind you, she's under the covers, so whoever or whatever was standing there wasn't moving anymore. It was just like looking or like searching. And Emily says that she remembers thinking one thing over and over, and it was, please don't pull the blanket away. She had that feeling like something was going to rip it away, or please don't find me. And then the footsteps started back up again. The closet door had closed, and whatever the figure was that she could see through the blankets had left the room. And then the bedroom door remained open, and the footsteps faded out into the house. But the part that still bothers her is that she never heard another door open, and she never heard another door close. There was nothing, just footsteps that eventually vanished. And the next morning, she immediately talked to her mom and her stepdad, and, they both said no. And, the stepdad was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And the sister, who was asleep, kind of half asleep through everything, said that she kind of remembers a little bit of it, but she was also a little asleep. She thought maybe she was dreaming. And according to Emily, nobody in the house had any reason to create a strange calendar event on her phone. Now, maybe it was a prank played on by the sister. I don't know. Maybe somebody was trying to scare her and they never confessed to it. That's certainly possible, but Emily says what still unsettles her isn't the footsteps or even the closet. It's the timing of it, because whatever happened, it started with that notification that she never created, and one that appeared in the middle of the night, and one that simply just read the one-man hide-and-seek game. And then a few moments later, something came looking for her, like this thing was literally playing hide and seek with her. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.